90 years ago, the Virginia Farm Bureau made our local farmers a promise to protect and preserve a way of life they worked so hard to establish. Today, our insurance agents work to protect all Virginians, not just farmers. We want to keep Virginia, Virginia. More information is at farmbureauadvantage.com.
Hi everybody, welcome to Virginia Farming. I'm Amy Rocher. Today we visit Greenmount Grain Roasting in Singers Glen and get the inside scoop on roasted grain. Then Chris Mullins has tips on growing heirloom tomatoes from the ground up. We'll also have the Ag Calendar, a Minute in the Field video, and of course your Ag News of the Week, all on this edition of Virginia Farming. Turkeys, chickens, ducks, geese, and other fowl will return to the Rockingham County Fair as officials have rescinded the ban on live birds. The ban was implemented last spring due to a serious outbreak of avian influenza that posed a potential threat to bird health and the Virginia poultry industry. The Rockingham County Fair will run August 15th through the 20th. Well, just a few weeks after heavy freezes threatened the strawberry crop for most Virginia growers, the pick-your-own season was in full swing. Motley's strawberry farm in Pittsylvania County said they escaped frost damage by watering overnight until the sun warmed things up in the morning. The farms that survived the frost opened a couple of weeks earlier than usual and reported good crops. Westmoreland Berry Farm said they had more berries than they could pick. They used row covers on the fruit to protect against frost, but during the day, the higher temperatures created a greenhouse effect and the berries came in sooner. Now the recent heavy rains have slowed berry growth, but pickers, you shouldn't be discouraged. Most berry growers use their voicemail and websites to inform customers of crop conditions and picking hours. And anyone searching for local strawberries can use the Virginia Grown Farm Directory at virginiagrown.com. When it comes to raising cattle for the nation's beef supply, quality pays. In this segment, ag economist Ted Schrader discusses how premiums filter back from beef consumer to beef producer. Bob Cervera reports.
Fed cattle premiums don't just drop out of thin air. They're earned at every point in beef production.
The premium and the prosperity for the industry starts at the consumer level. And so that consumer is going to drive what happens down the rest of the chain.
Selling beef by quality grades and brands allows consumers to choose and value them individually. It also creates more work and cost to get the beef to them.
And producing, processing, marketing, positioning, and putting that product in the consumer's hands, all of those activities take investment, take scrutiny to make sure that there's integrity throughout that value chain. Everyone involved in that has an additional cost incurred. If you're the retailer, you have a different shelf space you've got to allocate to this product. If you're the processor, you have a sorting mechanism that you have to incur in order to assure that you've got product flowing into that right retail channel.
Schroeder also says producing high-quality beef doesn't just happen on the ranching side of the equation either. It takes focus.
Likewise, if you're a producer, you have production activity and those kinds of things, genetic selection that's happening all the way down at cow-calf. There's costs at every segment. Ultimately, we have to have price signaling going vertically, or someone would not have the incentive to invest. But the transmissions will always be occurred or will always reflect some of the costs involved in that additional activity at each level.
That's why the wholesale premiums for higher quality do not match the Choice Select spread. For example,
so you'll never have the consumer's premium equal the producer's premium, but you would sure expect a percentage of that consumer premium to be reflected down at the producer level. And that's indeed what we see, is that as the consumer premium increases, so does the producer premium. And again, those aren't going to be 100% transmissions, but they're going to have a very high correlation and causation with each other.
That's good news for everybody who includes quality beef in their plans. I'm Bob Cervera.
Thanks, Bob. A Virginia wine promotion conducted in partnership with Berry Brothers and Rudd, the oldest wine merchant company in the United Kingdom, has resulted in new exports of Virginia wine to the international wine market. During the month of March, Berry Brothers featured a special case of Virginia wine for sale on its website and offered all purchasers of the case the chance to win a 4-day, 5-night tour of Virginia wine country, sponsored and organized by VDAX, the Virginia Wine Board Marketing Office, and the Virginia Tourism Corporation. The cases sold out in less than 3 weeks. The wines were exported by Reston-based New Horizon Wines and featured selections from Bro Vineyards and Boxwood Winery, both of Loudoun County, and Veritas Winery of Nelson County, all of whom New Horizon has represented in the UK for several years. The winners were chosen by a random drawing, and their tour takes place this month. Virginia is the 5th largest wine-producing state in the U.S. The wine industry contributes $750 million annually to the Virginia economy. Well, portable handling and storage equipment is vital to helping farmers get their products to market more quickly to maintain better product quality. So the USDA is providing a new financing option to help farmers purchase that equipment. The Farm Service Agency announced changes to the Farm Storage Facility Loan Program. The loans now will include a smaller microloan option with lower down payments. They're designed to help producers, including new, small, and mid-sized producers, grow their businesses and markets. To learn more, visit the web address on your screen. Well, roasting grain has numerous benefits, both for the animal eating it and the farmer storing it. Today, we visit Greenmount Grain Roasting and learn more about the process. Straight ahead on Ag Insights. So today we're in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and we're visiting Greenmount Grain Roasting. I'm joined by owner Craig Bailey. Craig, thank you so much for having us out today.
It's very good to have you all here today.
So, what exactly is grain roasting? This is new to me.
Actually, it's been around for at least 30 to 40 years. It's more common today than it was 30, 40 years ago. But basically, we heat treat grain, and it makes it more digestible, more nutritious for the animal. A lot of benefits besides the nutrition, as far as molds and toxin levels, we can reduce those. And also we can dry the crop at the same time. So we're getting a lot of things covered with one process. And
Okay.
it's proven to be very profitable.
So how long have you been doing this?
This is our 13th, it's going on our 13th year. So
Okay.
we've been working at this since 2003.
All right. Well, the name of your company has grain roasting, and we've got a big pile of soybeans here behind us. Do you roast anything besides soybeans?
We primarily roast soybeans and corn. We do some barley and a little bit of wheat, and last year we did triticale.
Okay.
And these are grains that are harvested, as a feed grain. So it's not a forage; it's actually a feed grain. So.
Okay. So, is this treated like silage?
No, silage has a lot of moisture.
A moisture.
And a grain has to be dry to be able to be stored properly.
That's what I was going to ask. How is it stored? So is it just stored in bins?
Yeah, grain bins or like feed tanks, or some people decide to put them on a concrete floor and store them that way. So we typically, when a load comes in, we'll just dump it on the concrete and scoop it up and run it through our machine, and that works really well for our setup right now.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about your setup, because you take this show on the road.
Yes, we basically can roast anywhere that is available for us to go, and we're 100% contained. We carry our own propane that powers the roaster, and we have a generator that powers all the equipment. So we can pretty much run a 8 to 10 hour day without any support.
Now, when you take the roaster out on the road, do you have to have special licensing to drive because you are carrying propane?
Yes, we have to carry a CDL license with a hazard material endorsement on our license. But it just makes the experience for the farmer so much more easier. There's nothing they have to worry about other than to get set up and to help us to do the job, and it makes it very enjoyable for the farmer and for ourselves.
Hey, anything you can do to make their job easier, right?
That's right.
So how many people do you employ with the roasting business?
Right now we have one full-time, and besides myself, and 3 or 4 part-time. Now the part-time come in at harvest. That's when we're the busiest. I mean, sometimes we run around the clock 24 hours. Just, you know, if especially with corn and there's a lot of crop coming off and it's high moisture, we want to get it dried down as quick as possible. And of course, with corn, your yields are always higher than with soybeans, so it takes longer to roast, an acre of corn. But you know, as far as the rest of the year, usually one person can pretty much handle the work that comes in each week. And and we're not busy every day, but it's very common to have 2 or 3 days a week tied up in roasting. So, but we also have trucking services and things like that. We can haul the grain for you, or if someone needs soybeans or roasted corn, we purchase it. We actually raise them on our farm here, but we will also purchase it, and that's what happened here. We purchased beans for another customer.
Okay.
And we'll roast it, we'll grind it and crimp it, or whatever the customer wants. It's a full service.
So when you say roast it or crimp it, are there different recipes that you kind of follow for different grains?
Well, on roasting, there's only, with soybeans, we try to typically run at 300 degrees. The internal temperature of the soybean is 300 degrees. On corn, we monitor the moisture level. When our moisture is down below 15, usually 14% is what we shoot for, then we know we're good. So there are different, each grain is a little different how we roast it.
Okay.
With barley, we try to get about a third of the kernels to crack, to pop open, and they'll sort of puff open.
So let me ask you, how on earth do you find out that the center of a soybean is at 300 degrees?
Okay, we have a can that we actually put a thermometer in, and we take can temperatures. And so we will do that periodically throughout the process. Typically, I've done this long enough, I can look at it, and I can tell by the machine, my gauges and everything, I can pretty much hit it pretty close.
Now, do the beans change in appearance at all after they're roasted? Do they get darker?
Actually, all the grain will actually swell up. It'll actually puff out. With soybeans, they'll get a little larger, and the skins on the outside will get a little darker. And they'll have, we have a flame roaster, which actually the beans actually fall through the direct flame 5 to 6 times before they leave the roaster. And so you will have a little bit of a scorched mark, but for mold and toxins, we really like that better. The flame can actually burn that off. So we really like our process.
So someone can call and you can either go to them, but a lot of your business, they bring it to you. They bring their soybeans or corn, whatever. I
would say a small fraction brings it to me. Typically, it's people that have small quantities. At harvest, we have bins here that farmers will actually fill the bins up while we're out on the road roasting, and then we'll come back, a day that we're slower. We'll set up here at the farm and continue to roast their customers' grain.
Well, you mentioned, mold and moisture being reduced. So does that mean does roasted grain last longer? Can you store it for longer amounts of time?
Well, in order to store it for an extended period of time, it needs to be dry. And a lot of different grains have different moisture levels that they will keep at. Typically, the molds come from where somebody put the grain in the bin just a little bit too wet, or they put it in the bin dry. But when they put air on it, it might have been a day that was damp and rainy or something, and they got moisture in the grain, and then it'll start to deteriorate. And there's different stages of molds and mycotoxins, and we can't eradicate it at 100%, but we can reduce it. And if it's caught in the early stage, we've done a lot of testing where we'll send samples off and there's no presence. But again, it depends on what stage that the grain is, the molds and things are in. So it's a lot of different variables there, and it's different. Every year's a different thing, a different challenge, it seems like. So,
right. So if you roast an acre of corn, how long does that last? Does it have a fairly substantial shelf life? So you could actually roast earlier and all you need to do is worry about storing it at that point?
Well, typically, I mean, a year is about all you want to store any grain. And roasting does take care of the moisture, and I think it does extend the shelf, the life a little bit, but it still has to be treated as a feed grain. If you put it in a bin, you still need to take care of it. You need to keep an eye on it and put some air to it occasionally on a good dry day.
Okay.
Soybeans is not quite as critical, but corn is a little bit temperamental. So I would say if a farmer's going to roast and they store it in bins, they need to treat it as a normal feed grain.
Okay,
You know, whether it's roasted or not roasted.
So what feedback are you getting? Are dairy farmers getting more milk production when they use roasted grains?
Yeah, a lot of guys this year, soybean prices have dropped over the last 8 to 10 months. And a lot of guys that have never used soybeans before are using them now and saying they're very pleased. Their production has gone up, their feed costs have gone down because they raised the product from the farm. The old saying goes, a farmer has to buy retail and he sells wholesale and he pays freight both ways. So I tell farmers, if you're paying freight to haul your grain out and then you're bringing freight to bring something back in, that cost right there would have covered your roasting cost. So, you know, it's all how you look at it. If you want to feed your own product, it's a great alternative. If you don't mind feeding other feed grains that maybe have seeds from somebody else's field that you don't have in your field, then you could have some issues there with weed control in your own croplands.
Sure.
So there's a lot of different variables. Now on corn, several people have several universities have done studies, and they're seen a 4 to 6 pound increase in milk production and a 2 to 4 pound decrease in corn going into the ration. So they're actually reducing their corn intake and they're increasing their milk production.
Wow.
And we typically see for every dollar that you spend, you're going to get $2 back. And
wow. That's pretty amazing.
It's a pretty good buy, we feel.
Now, do you work with anybody at Virginia Tech or VSU to help you? You know, you say you test things a lot and you're doing studies.
I do, like my testing, I just send them off to a lab that does the different tests.
Okay.
Now, as far as university studies, I'll work with a company in Pennsylvania that actually manufactures the equipment. And they are tied in with several universities and a vet school in Pennsylvania. And they've done a lot of in vitro tests where they do rumen degradation and all. So it's very extensive. Now, I've never done anything with Virginia Tech because I'm a smaller guy compared to the manufacturer that manufactures equipment, and their equipment goes worldwide. So they typically, you know, take care of that end of it, the research and development, and they've done a very good job, you know, at it. And they share their results with me and other people that have machines like we have.
Okay. All right. Well, if any of our viewers want more information on Greenmount Grain Roasting, where should they go?
They can call me directly at area code 540-578-0760, or they can email us at greenmountgrainroasting@gmail.com, and they can just shoot me an email and we can respond. And you know, we're not afraid to go anywhere. We travel 3 to 4 hours away.
As long as there's a path to get there, you can get there, right?
Right, exactly.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for having us out today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for taking the time to come visit.
We'll be right back. Heirloom tomatoes are not only delicious, but many varieties have a historical significance. Chris Mullins has more from the ground up.
Well, hi, today we're in Chesterfield County, Virginia. We're at the historic Castlewood House, and we're going to be talking about heirloom tomatoes for you in the garden. And here I'm with Pat Robley. Pat, nice to have you on the show today. We really appreciate you letting us come out and talk with you.
Thanks for coming out to the garden.
Well, good. Tell me, what are you doing here? What are we seeing behind us?
Well, the plants in this garden comes from the Chesterfield Historical Society heirloom tomato plant sale.
Okay.
We normally have that in April over at the Chesterfield County Museum. Chesterfield Historical Society volunteers and Master Gardener volunteers helped me grow about 30 kinds of heirloom tomato varieties. And we have almost all of them in the garden here today. It's an educational garden here at Castlewood.
That's great. I noticed, as I was walking through earlier, I saw so many varieties. And I know some of the gardeners in the area are very interested in this. Is that kind of what started this?
Well, yes, and it's the tie-in to history that the Historical Society is recognizing that, you know, this is our heritage and the heritage of, you know, people who came from various countries. Many of the heirlooms came with immigrants who, you know, came from countries like we have here represented in the garden. Varieties from Germany, England, Poland, Yugoslavia, and so you know, it's that connection to history that's so important to us.
Well, we're back in the garden here now, and Pat has done a great job keeping this area neat and clean, and the production is great on these. So why would you want to grow heirlooms? Well, these are varieties and things that you can't really get at the grocery store. This is a really nice plant here. It's very large. Most of these varieties get very big, and so you want to make sure that you've got a cage that can support them and they won't get blown over in the wind. Speaking of really big tomatoes too, this is one called Mortgage Lifter, and this fruit is just wonderful. You can see just a really large fruit here, hence the name Mortgage Lifter. Great, nice kind of a light red color. Going to be really nice to eat. We might take this one home and eat it a little bit later. Overall, this is a really nice plant. Let's go look at some of the others she's got back here now. All right, this is another one called Alpaca, and this is a paste tomato, as you can see here. It'd be used to make tomato paste for sauces and things like that. Just another example of the differences that you get here in some of these older varieties. Now, disease can be a real problem with heirloom varieties, older varieties, compared to hybrids or newer modern varieties that have some disease resistance built into them or bred into them. These don't. So you really have to help these plants during the growing season. You don't want a lot of free water, for example, on the leaves. You know, you can have fungal problems because of that. So when you irrigate these plants, and I think you should irrigate them, that really gives them a good start on the production season, you should water at the bottom, maybe with drip irrigation or soaker hoses or with watering cans. I would stay away from overhead irrigation for these. Well, this is another variety. This is Brandywine. Many of you have heard of that particular one. We talked about irrigation. As you're irrigating here, you don't want a lot of that moisture in the soil to evaporate, and you can do that with mulch. Now you notice Pat has put there's some newspaper down, so she put some newspaper down, and then she's covered it with a lot of this bark. So that's gonna, and you see there's hardly any weeds. I don't see any weeds in here. So she's kept the weeds down. She's also kept the moisture in the soil and at the root zone, so when she does water, you don't lose a lot of that. Well, these heirloom tomatoes can be really great for the home gardener. The experienced gardener are going to have a lot of fun with these, and even a new gardener can give these a try. I would recommend, maybe if you want to make sure you have tomatoes for the end of the season, to plant some hybrids along with these, and sometimes you might want to plant a little more of the heirlooms than you normally would. In case you have a crop failure, you still would have some that you can eat at the end of the summer. So for more information about heirloom plants, and especially heirloom tomatoes, please contact your local county extension office. Your master gardener can help you out with that. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins, and we'll see you next time.
Taking a look at the ag calendar, a small farm berry and vegetable field day will be held June 9th at VSU's Randolph Farm. You'll find small farm outreach, berry production, and aquaculture information, and USDA resources will also be available. To register for this free event, call the number on your screen. That does it for our show. Thanks for watching. You know, our show is a production of viewer-supported WVPT Public Media. WVPT relies on contributions from viewers like you. So if you appreciate Virginia farming and want to help us keep bringing it to you each week, please consider making a donation to support WVPT. Thanks and have a great week. I'm Amy Rocher for Virginia Farming.
90 years ago, the Virginia Farm Bureau made our local farmers a promise to protect and preserve a way of life they work so hard to establish. We want to keep Virginia, Virginia. Anyone can be a Farm Bureau member, and there's a local Farm Bureau in every county. More information is at vafarmbureau.org.
Would you like to put your business in front of rural America and the ag community every week? We have sponsorship opportunities available that will do just that. Get in touch with us to hatch a new plan.